48 million people get sick from foodborne illness each year, just in the United States alone. The CDC investigates around 40 outbreaks per week. 40 outbreaks of some food illness, food-related illness per week. Now, in 1993, was one of the first big cases of E. coli. No one really knew what that was before this happened in the northwest area of the United States. Bacterial sickness hits dozens of children, and they had no idea what was causing it. The problem started, in case you guys don't know about this thing, because I never knew about this. The problem started when a pediatric infectious disease specialist informed a Washington state epidemiologist they had seen 11 children in under 30 hours that were testing positive for E. coli, but not just E. coli, your regular run-of-the-mill E. coli, but one called E. coli 0157, and had never seen anything like it before. In just days, y'all, they had 45 people sick, and it would be the biggest foodborne outbreak in the United States. So here's the thing. There's a couple different E. coli's. We keep hearing about this all the time. We get recalls on stuff. We have news headlines. Sorry, my phone just randomly cut off from recording. I don't know if anybody else has a Samsung Galaxy Ultra S23, Ultra 23, something like that. It just randomly cuts off recording. Anyway, what I was saying, we get recalls all the time for E. coli and things, and it's been in, ground beef, but I noticed that it's more and more, I'm hearing it in vegetables and fruits and stuff like that. We just had the whole thing with the cut cantaloupe, the mixed fruit, and mainly from the cantaloupe that was at certain gas stations, and then you have it in spinach all the time. So I was trying to figure out what the difference is. So I said, what food is E. coli 0157H7, which is what was this whole 1993 outbreak. It's called 0157H7. And I asked, what is it found in? I needed to know what this one specific strain of E. coli was found in, because it is the most harmful one to you. So it says Shiga toxin producing E. coli, STEC, including E. coli 0157H7, can be particularly dangerous. The primary sources of STC outbreaks are raw or undercooked ground meat products, raw milk and cheeses, and contaminated vegetables and sprouts. You guys probably remember that just a couple months ago, not even a couple months ago, I don't even think it was that long, there was a whole thing about raw milk that was being drank, and people were getting sick from it, and they're blaming it on Amish farmers, whatever else. We all know they have a tendency to go after Amish farmers, but they were talking about that if you're going to drink milk, do not drink raw milk. I know people have been drinking raw milk for literally the span of life, right? And this E. coli 0157H7 is going to be a bigger chance of happening in certain foods, like the raw milk, the ground beef, excuse me, and certain cheeses and vegetables and sprouts. Now, I was curious, what is the difference between your regular run-of-the-mill, I'm going to do this every time, run-of-the-mill E. coli, and this E. coli 0157H7. So it says E. coli is one of hundreds of strains of the bacterium Escherichia. I can't say it, coli. Most strains of E. coli are harmless and live in the intestines of healthy humans and animals. However, the 0157 strain produces a powerful toxin that can cause severe illness. Average incubation, like with a lot of sicknesses, is like 3 to 4 days, but it can take up to 9 days for someone to become ill. Most E. coli don't affect anyone because it's living in our gut systems all the time. And you're going to come across E. coli numerous times. And most of the time, it's not going to affect you. You might have, poop, or you might have nausea or whatever else. But most of the time, it's not going to be anything detrimental. But this E. coli 0157H7 is a pretty big deal, and it can be extremely fatal. The outbreak of 1993, I was only 11 years old, so it's probably not something I would have noticed or paid attention to. One, because I didn't live in the Northwest of the United States. And as an 11-year-old, how often did most 11-year-olds watch the news for, fun and, learning? Not much, okay? So the outbreak of 1993 was finally linked to undercooked burgers at Jack in the Box. Over 150 people became ill in the first few weeks after consuming the tainted hamburger meat in restaurants in Idaho and Washington state, and the numbers of illnesses grew, and so did the deaths of children. You have to keep in mind, children's bodies, immune systems, and everything are not nearly as developed as those of adults. So certain illnesses are going to hit them so much harder than it would you or I. Where was I? Sorry. The virus then began to spread to other people who hadn't even eaten the hamburgers from Jack in the Box, but had instead come into contact with other individuals through schools and daycares that were sick and passed the germs around. They said that E. coli was basically eating the children away from the inside out. It was literally burning them up and shutting down their organs and causing this horrific way to die. Like, not anything you would want to wish on your worst enemy, let alone a child, right? So there was a kid named Riley Duttweiler who was one of the first deaths from the E. coli outbreak. I think he was 16 months old. He was a toddler. He was tiny, right? Bill Clinton went on television saying that meats needed to be cooked longer because of this. And it was initially thought that the internal temperature of 140 degrees was good for cooking beef, but later determined, because of this outbreak, due to this outbreak, whatever, that 155 degrees was safer in terms of killing germs, which is why so many people these days order burgers and steaks well done. The problem here is people couldn't understand if the E. coli illnesses were because of undercooking the meat or because the meat itself was tainted, and because of all the political stuff and all of the pointing fingers and the legal stuff, whatever, they determined it was both. The meat itself was bad, whether it was because something happened in the slaughterhouse and in production there, or because, you know, it was left out a certain amount of time or whatever else. And then you add into the fact that these hamburgers were being undercooked. There were even complaints that they were undercooked, and the company continued to do it. That will work together. Now, I will say that when you go out to eat, a lot of people you'll notice order, like I said, their hamburgers well done or their steaks well done. But most people's well done, you can't tell from the outside if something is well done or not. We've gone to steak restaurants and ordered something medium well, and it's come out clearly medium, if not lower than that. Ordered something medium well, and it's come out so well done that it's like trying to chew on a dog bone because it's so overcooked, right? So they're saying that the best way to order your steaks and your hamburgers and things is order it, and then when they go, how would you like it cooked? You say to an internal temperature of 155 degrees. Because then they have to check with a thermometer to ensure that the inside of the meat you're about to eat is actually cooked to the temperature that would kill the E. coli pathogens, the 0157H7, as opposed to eyeballing it from the outside and going, oh yeah, totally done. Because you can burn the crap out of something on the outside and it be completely raw in the middle. So when you go out to eat for the future, which I will now do if I happen to order a burger or steak anywhere, it will be, I would like it cooked to an internal temperature of 155 degrees. And if for some reason I go someplace and they say, oh, well, we don't have a thermometer, we can't do that. One, you shouldn't be in business. And two, I'm not ordering a hamburger or steak with you. That's just me. Now, what I did find funny was in an interview with Robert Nugent, who happens to be the president of Jack in the Box. He was asked if they chose to ignore the law in Washington stating you had to cook hamburgers to an internal temp of 140 degrees. Because again, this was before this whole outbreak and it needed to be moved up to 155. It was at 140 degrees. And he says, and I quote, "We would never choose not to pay attention to the law. Why would a company choose not to pay attention to the law?" End quote. I have so many thoughts on that, y'all. So many companies that will willfully not choose to not pay attention to the law. Others that work to get laws changed so that they're in their favor. But think about it for a second. You have a long line of customers waiting through the drive-through, waiting at your counter. And you guys have been in places where there's a long line. People start to get antsy. They start to get impatient. They start to get a little bitchy, if you will. And like, what is taking so long? Blah, blah, blah. And all that does is put pressure on the staff, no matter what it is, whether it is a restaurant or a retail place or whatever else. It puts pressure on them to hurry up, get it going faster. So now you're going to have these restaurants like Jack in the Box did, trying to move people along faster. One, so that they don't get angry and whatever and badmouth the place. But two, the faster you can move them out, the sooner you can move the next paying customer in. And what do I always say? What do I always say, and will say for the rest of my life because it's 100% accurate? Profit over people. Jack in the Box was looking at the profit over the health of the people. There was even a letter sent in from one of their employees saying, hey, we're not cooking our burgers to the 140 degrees. They're undercooked. We've had people complain about them. Corporate saw that, and corporate said, hide it under the rug, put it somewhere else, pretend like we haven't seen it, and keep it moving, because it's all about the moolah. It's all about the money that you bring in. So it's just, there's a lot more to the whole case and everything that happened. So there is a documentary on Netflix right now. It's called Poisoned: The Dirty Truth About Your Food. it is worth watching. Let me just go ahead and put that out there right now. There have been plenty of documentaries, whether it's on Netflix or Hulu or wherever else. You had Forks Over Knives, you had Game Changers, you had What the Health, you have Cowspiracy, Seaspiracy. You've got the one that just came out, You Are What You Eat with the twins, where like I said, that one's really designed to make you not want to eat certain things and make you want to go vegan. But this new one, this Poison, The Dirty Truth About Your Food, to me, felt like it was legitimately aimed at giving you knowledge of what is going on behind the scenes when it comes to our food, where there are no regulations, because right now the FDA and the USDA have no regulations inside chicken coops and inside where, you know, the cows are born and bred and whatever else. Their regulations don't start until you get to the slaughterhouse. So there's a lot of things that can be done behind the scenes that we would never know about that could impact our health. And it's extremely eye-opening in my opinion. It's not going to change the way I eat. I'm still going to eat certain things, because here's what I've realized. I have a lot of information I want to share with you here, but here's what I realized. We've talked about food on this channel for literally February something or other will be 2 years that this channel has been in existence, right? And in the beginning, we talked about prices and stuff, because this was during the pandemic, during the shortages, during everybody's worries about the grocery stores and stuff. So we talked about what was on the shelves, what wasn't on the shelves, what was price-wise, and, you know, how to stock up so that you had stuff in your pantry. And then my way of looking at things changed a little bit, and it started to be more about, well, hey, also pay attention to what you're putting in your pantry, what you're putting in your body. And then, you know, it's even I am having a difficult time when it comes to making correct choices for food, because, and unfortunately, what I am realizing is you can try to make as many correct choices as you want, but until our food regulations change to ensure safety and ensure healthiness, there's not a ton we can do unless you have the ability to personally grow your own food, to grow your own meats, to grow your own fruits, to grow your own vegetables, everything else. But even then, where you live it will determine what happens to your food, what kind of soil you have, how close you are to plants or farms that, you know, either raise chickens or beef or pigs or, you know, any of those other kind of things, because the runoff from a lot of this stuff is contaminating everything across the board. One of the takeaways from Poisoned, The Dirty Truth About Your Food, that I got yesterday was, you know, here we are thinking that it's the ground beef and it's the steaks and it's everything else that's going to cause this E. coli, and especially the really bad one, the E. coli 0157H7. But what it really comes down to is they are saying that one of the biggest things to worry about is actually romaine lettuce. And when I tell y'all, I buy organic romaine lettuce probably 3 times a week. Because I love it. I eat it with everything. Now I am even myself second guessing it, because there is no way to ensure anything is safe. But there's the other problem. There's no way to ensure anything is safe. So then do you live your life being terrified of everything you're going to eat? Or do you say, you know what, pray over it and eat and hope for the best? You know what I mean? Now, there's one thing here that I found very interesting that I wanted to bring to you guys. So I went to the National Library of Medicine just to kind of see exactly what this 0157H7 outbreaks have been like. And they had numbers from 1982 to 2002. And it says here that there were, let's see, where am I at? So there were 73,000 illnesses there are 73,000 illnesses in the United States annually from 0157H7, the one that can kill you, the one that can paralyze you, the one that can have you have to cut your limbs off, like cause brain damage, all kinds of horrible stuff, right? And it said that, let me see, where am I? Because their stuff is really hard to read. Let me just show you. It's kind of difficult to read the stuff on their website unless you have like knowledge of what some of these words are, and I don't understand a ton of them. So just between 1982 and 2002, 73,000 cases a year were reported. There have been way more now, one, because I think that there has been an uptick in the growth of our food, and then everything else because of the growth of, you know, the population. So now you're going to have more and more cases popping up because you're growing more and more food. It goes hand in hand. You grow here, this is going to grow as well. But this only goes to 2002. But according to this, 73,000 illnesses a year. with 49 states that had a lot of the illnesses and hospitalizations, and there were 40 deaths out of each year. It's saying average each year 40 deaths from the stuff, which is a huge deal, especially when it's not something that you can protect yourself against, which I think is the scariest part for a lot of people. You thought to yourself, well, I can protect myself. I just won't eat beef. I won't eat steak. Okay, cool. Well, what about romaine lettuce? What about spinach? What about sprouts? What about onions? What about cantaloupe? What about whatever? There's so many things that you can't protect yourself against, that if we constantly live in a state of fear about what we eat, or, walking out of our door, or what, and going places, or whatever else, it's going to lead to a very unhappy life and a very stressful life, which stress then adds to the unhealthiness of our own bodies, our own mental states. And it's just one of those things where, after watching this, the Poisoned, the dirty truth about your food, I woke up this morning and I said, hey, you know what? You're going to eat the things you're going to eat. I'm still going to choose organic as often as humanly possible. I will now make those changes. If I happen to have a hamburger or steak, I'm going to request a certain internal temperature, not a, color scale of rare, medium, well, whatever. I'm going to ask for a certain temperature. And I'm going to try to do things to the best of my ability to keep myself healthy, safe, whatever. Now, according to this, right now, there are roughly 63,000 hemorrhagic, I don't know how you're supposed to say that, colitis cases annually in the United States, which is the 0157H7. It says, review of database and studies from 10 out of 14 World Health Organization's subregions showed the global incidence of E. coli to be about 2.8 million cases per year. This is globally, 2.8 million cases per year. And then I tried to see, do we have these last E. coli outbreaks, right? So in 2023, Valley Meats LLC recalled ground beef products due to possible E. coli 0157H7 contamination out of Washington. That was on December 31st, 2023. So there have been ground beef recalls since the end of 2023 and here into the beginning of 2024. Now, the next one that we have, there were 24 illnesses in 6 states, and that was in October 24th, 2022. October 7th of that same year, the Michigan Department of Agriculture and Rural Development collected earth-grown frozen falafel for testing from a sick person's home. And that was, again, E. coli. Then you had the FDA and CDC, in collaboration with state and local partners, are investigating illnesses in a multi-state outbreak of E. coli 0157H7. According to the CDC, as of November 15th, 2021, 10 people infected with the outbreak strain of E. coli 0157H7 have been reported from 7 states. They're all over the place. Now, I am curious how they and you and I can tell the difference between a regular E. coli from the one that is, highly potentially fatal, the 0157H7. And it says here that the fatal one, the 0157H7, causes a severe intestinal infection in humans. It is the most common strain to cause illness in people. It can be differentiated from other E. coli by the production of a potent toxin that damages the lining of the intestinal wall, causing bloody diarrhea, which is not anything you want. It also causes abdominal cramps. It says here, most people infected with E. coli 0157 do not have a fever or vomiting, which I thought was very interesting and something you should know. If at any point you think you have food poisoning, if you don't have a fever or vomiting, but you have just absolute horrible abdominal cramps and maybe severe diarrhea, often bloody, you may want to immediately go to the hospital, because it could be this potentially fatal 0157H7. Again, I only bring this to your attention because it's something that we should all be aware of, that there are differences. So when you hear them say, oh, we're recalling this because of an E. coli outbreak, there is a difference between a regular E. coli and the 0157H7. That's the one that you really, if they say that has been linked to something, throw your stuff away, take it back to the store, whatever you personally want to do. I always say, go get your money back. Do not eat it. Do not test it and say, you know what, maybe mine's fine. That right there to me is the one where you say, I'm just going to be better safe than sorry, err on the side of caution, whatever you want to call it. But I will say that everybody needs to go watch that documentary. It is on Netflix. So hopefully you have it. If you don't, maybe you can get somebody's password and check it out. But it is definitely worth watching as an eye opener. And so you can make better decisions for yourself when it comes to certain things you eat or do not eat. I found it extremely interesting to see what happened and how everything has pretty much over the years since this 1993 outbreak has continued to kind of get bigger and bigger and bigger. We have more and more outbreaks of E. coli and E. coli 0157H7. And you think to yourself, well, why is that? And it's because maybe in 1993, we were growing this much food. Well, now we're trying to grow this much food because now instead of this many people, we have this many people. The growth of everything is contributing to a lot of different things. So it's just very interesting to see how everything kind of goes hand in hand. And I just wanted to share it with you because I found it fascinating, and hopefully you do too. And if not, no harm, no foul. You're not going to like everything I talk about. That's fine. I still love y'all. And hopefully you still like being part of the Squirrel Tribe. I'm going to have more stuff for you a little bit later, but this one, again, it just really interested me and I wanted to bring it to you. So Squirrel Tribe, thank you for letting me have this conversation with you. Remember, cook your burgers and your steaks to an internal temperature of 155 degrees. Okay. Love y'all. Bye.